best thing you can do is know who you are. Because if you don't know who you are and how you can change it yourself, then hearing feedback means nothing. Because, and I mean, from that aspect where feedback won't mean anything is because if you're not willing to be open with yourself and knowing that you know you need to improve, then you're not going to improve anyways. So it's no point of even having feedback.
What's up, Growth Talk fam? We back at it again with another episode. This is episode 22 to be exact, with Jamie and James.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, let's get it. So we got to just jump right into it. As always, if there's anything that resonates with you on this episode, please hit that like, share button. And if you have any comments, feel free to put some comments in that comment section. All right, so let's get into this episode, bro. Um, so I know you just came back, you came back from competition. Man, just share, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Share your experience. By the way, just in case y'all don't know, James is now officially a pro. Okay. Give it up. Super excited about that. So happy for you, bro. I know you worked tremendously hard for it, and I know it was not an easy process. Man, the discipline, the determination, the just so many things came into play. I already know that just help you through this process. So just tell us about it. How does it feel being a pro now? How was that process? Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, it's a blessing, I would say. It's still surreal in a way because kind of like, okay, now you have to go to another level instead of just being where you were at. So it's kind of like how you elevate in life. And so when you push past those barriers, the times where you don't feel like it, the times where you do maybe feel like it, but more so than not, you're not going to feel like doing something. So that's just life in general. So when it comes to this, as far as like now being officially a pro and you know achieving that higher rank now, and then it's like now it's like a motivating factor to okay, go for more. And
Mhm.
so just that whole process of just the journey itself was just tough, but you know, that's the barriers in your brain that you have to actually push through because those days where you don't feel like I said, you're gonna have more days than not of when you don't feel like it more so than the days you do feel like it. So you got to push past those barriers every single time because when you don't, you basically um from a quote from a book basically I was reading yesterday. It's not word for word, but it was basically like when you create a habit, it's like building a cable and the cable is extending the more you build that habit. So from a good habit to a bad habit, the more you're building a bad habit or the more you're building a good habit, you're building this cable. It gets longer and longer and longer. So the habits you're building is that cable. So the longer you make it, the harder it is and the more power it has. So you have to understand what habit are you building. So, but just the entire process of building good habits, I would say, just made that mindset shift even better because it's not only just do it with like actually just bodybuilding itself, but it's like you have to be a whole different person when you have to do that bodybuilding show because it's like you have cardio days, you have workout days, you have eating days. You have to be really strict to every single thing. And so yes, you can indulge or not indulge afterwards and stuff like that, but just that long process of building that habit, it takes a whole different human being.
Yeah. So how long was that process, like your preparation for that? How long did you have to stay disciplined like you were when it came to your dieting and all of that?
So it was kind of like a mock run up. So we basically had to program ourselves to really get back into the groove. And just in general, it's like when you do certain things where you're not accustomed to doing or you kind of fall off track, because it's like you have to understand how can I say this? You have to understand your personality in a way. And so when you understand your personality, you know more about your tendencies. And then when you know more about your tendencies, you know what habits to break and what habits you need to not break. And it's like flushing out the trash and bringing in good garbage or whatever you want to call it. It's not like a good analogy, but you're basically knocking out all the bad habits. Like for me, it's like I love my sweets. I love, just eating in general. And people may look at me and be like, no, you don't. But I really do. That's very hard for me to just knock out sweets. So it's like not having a sweet for to answer your question, it was a long process of not having a sweet for like probably 10 to 12 weeks. So not like one single sweet at all. It's like I knocked it all out. So going that long process for someone who loves sweets, then it's like every single day, it's like, okay, if I see this, man, I really want that, but I can't have it. And then another day going like, man, I really want that, but I really can't have it. So it's like you have to be disciplined. So that cable I said earlier that I'm building, basically turning down what I really want for something that I truly want
Yeah.
makes a difference.
Yeah, man, and that carries over to everything that you do. I feel like you get discipline, and that type of discipline in one area, it just pours over into other things. So with that, like how have you seen your training from with bodybuilding? How have you seen that pour over into your just everyday life? How have you seen it be beneficial for you in that aspect?
I think it's beneficial because it's like it goes to what I already love. And so I wouldn't say it's still easy because it's not, because even yesterday I didn't feel like going. So it's like you just have to continue to push through that barrier. So like if anything, where someone has a habit that they don't like, but they truly love the end process of it, you have to push those small barriers out the way because you're not saying to yourself that you love something, but you're also saying that you don't really love it. Because
Hmm.
and what I mean by that is basically, let's say for instance, I'll use um I'll use example for this tape. Like you love building stuff with tape, but then the process of how long it takes to build it with that tape, you don't like. But that end process of what it makes basically is what you love about it. So that's the same analogy with me with going to the gym. Like I love going to the gym, but every day I don't feel like going to the gym. And so me having to build that process of saying, okay, I love the end process of how I feel, how I look, how, my overall confidence is when I go to the gym. But do I really want to go to the gym for this amount of time, or no, I don't? So it's like there's certain aspects of it I love. There's some aspects I don't love it, and that's what everybody when they're you know their life in general is. There's things that you might love. There's things you might not love about it, but you have to push through that part because in the end, what's better to you? Like, do you love the confidence? Do you love the how you feel? Do you love how whatever the tape built? Do you love how it is? Okay, if you love it, then what are the negatives to it if you don't do it? So that's how you have to start thinking. It's like, what is the negatives if I don't do it? And then what's the positive if I do it? Do they outweigh which one outweighs the other?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you're outwitting yourself constantly every single day. Like
Mhm.
it's literally you're in competition with yourself, and you have to like shut the inner critic or inner whatever to okay, well, this is just be one day. That voice that gets you to want to attempt to eat that snack or eat that
Mhm.
sweet or whatever the case may be, you gotta shut it off. And man, it's inspiring because that's one thing I've always admired about you is your determination, your will. Like when you have your mind made up on something, it's done. It's no swaying it. You get what I'm saying? When you made your mind up on it. And I think that's so dope, bro. And I think that's so inspiring. And I think that that's something that man, Ari, man, I think it's incredible that she has a father figure like you to that shows that displays that. To me is rare. Um so salute on that. So now that you're pro, man, what is first of all, what did that moment feel like when they announced it? You know, how did you feel? What was going through your mind, etc.?
It was strictly just emotion. Like it was more so like just battling through, like I said, the everyday process of it. And it was like when you're down to the last two people, it's like you don't know which way it's going to go because you never know. It's not really in your hands at that time. It's like you've done the journey, you've done the work, but then it's like when the last two people come to one, and you're waiting on the judges to see what they like. And so at that part, it's not really in your hands, like I said. So when they paused and said, whatever the guy's number, I forgot his number was, but they called him and then they called me as the winner. It was kind of like an unbelievable feeling, I would say. And so um just that in that moment was like more so surreal than anything because like, man, I finally did it.
Yeah.
Like I finally did it. And it wasn't like like that's more so like a process too, where you're like, it took years to do it. It's like, oh, we actually, I'm sorry, I got paused. I was trying to think what I was gonna say. So basically, yesterday we actually brought up our medals of when we've been competing and how long we've been competing. So I literally started competing when I was in 2016.
Wow.
So it's 2024 right now. So got third, got second, got second, got third, got second, whatever, how many medals, whatever it is. But I've never got first. So in a sense, to that point, me and Al was talking. It was a funny thing. It was like, talk about overnight success, right? We just started cracking up because it wasn't. It was like, it literally was not an overnight success. It was just constant grind, constant grind. Like this show literally was the point of where I was like, I'm tired of doing this. Like, if I did not win that show, I was like, I don't even know if I want to compete anymore. So it was like one of those emotions where like I've been doing it over and over and over, and then it finally breaks through because you at that breaking point of like, should I do this anymore? Should I not do this anymore? But that's usually the time where it ends up breaking through, which it did. So it's kind of like I'm glad I did not stop. So just stuff in general to where things like that to where you put it in perspective to where at that end when they called my number, it was like, man, finally.
It's like it was all worth it.
Yeah,
Everything.
just finally.
Yeah, that's wow. That's perseverance, persistence. It's tough. I mean, because this journey, it's like that. You're gonna have ups and downs, and it's not gonna. And it's some people that are overnight successes, and then, and I would say in our eyes, in the human's eyes, because you don't really know what that person went through, what they endured, or anything like that.
Mhm.
And so when you go through your own journey and your own process with certain things, and it's taking time and it's requiring a lot of patience and mental toughness and stamina, endurance, and just the will to not give up, would you say, I guess, that picture, to go that period of time, because a lot of people would have gave up, a lot of people would have quit 5 years in, you get what I'm saying, like
Yeah,
2 years in, maybe a month in, like,
yes,
or after that first event, you know
yeah.
um would you say just keeping your eyes on the end result, like you're saying, that vision of what could be, or who you see yourself becoming, that kept you, that gave you that edge of not quitting when those times, when those thoughts may have came into your head? And speak on that too, bro, like, because some people, may think, oh, feel like, oh, you never thought about quitting. Did you think about quitting? And you may have already spoken, kind of briefly spoke on it, but did you think about quitting? And did the picture of the end result keep you going, to not quit and stay persistent?
I think it was hold on. Okay. I think it was more so how you basically said, like, yeah, I thought about quitting because it's completely different when you talk about like going and chasing like a win in bodybuilding compared to anything else. Like you have to, I wouldn't say it's different, but it's different in this aspect. So when you're doing stuff like shows and stuff like that, when it correlates to your body, then it's like you have to remember that people who really truly love it even more than you might at the time, to where it's like, man, when you take all these L's and then it's like you see these people that's winning and you're like, man, I look better than them, or you feel better than them, or it's like, man, how are they winning? But I can't even get over this hurdle. And so from that aspect of a bodybuilding standpoint, where it's truly a day-to-day grind because there's days where in other things I would say, and I hate to say it like that because like if you truly love something, if it's business wise, bodybuilding wise, it's like it's a truly an everyday grind. And some things might have to go to a halt or pause for a second to handle some other stuff because life might happen, might not happen. But at the same time, it's like you have to really set down on what is a priority, what's not a priority in that time frame or in that season of your life. And so to really, grasp the concept of the 2016 to 2024 time frame, every single day, if I did not want to get this, pro card now, it's like those are people every single day for the last 8 years are constantly building their body back up. So if I took a day off or took a whole year off and not did anything, that's a whole year behind I'm getting. And
Mm.
so then I have to reamp it back up to even just try to be competitive. And so, and that could be like correlated with business anyways too. So it's really the same, but a body takes I would say from this aspect, a body takes a lot longer to from a business to grow, if that makes sense, because you can't just force your body to grow muscle in, a span of a week. And in a business, yeah, in a business, you can have your success, like it can be overnight sometimes, it cannot be overnight, but then say for instance, like there's when it comes to bodybuilding, you see the progress, but you don't see it in a week. You can't make money from it from in a week. You can't make, all you have to do and look forward to is making food. So it's like that constant habitual habit of constantly going when there's no reward ever until you actually make it. So it's like that's the difference I would say from bodybuilding compared to business. Like there's no reward from it until you actually the only reward from it is like you're seeing your body change and feeling the confidence and stuff like that. And that what keeps you going. That's the main thing that keeps you going. It's like the confidence that you will build. So in a sense, it is a reward, but at the same time, it's like you have to work to that point
Yeah.
because if you're overweight or 100 pounds overweight, the 100 pounds is not going to drop off in 2 days. It's not going to happen like that. So that is the constant work. I mean, when it comes to that compared to like other business adventures or other business like that. So just that aspect of it is yes. Do I feel like quitting a lot of times? Yes, because like there's no reward until I got to this point. So now I can actually work for a reward. It means a lot more. I can actually make money from it now. But in that time frame from the 8 years, it's like there was no reward at all. It was just building confidence, building my body, and then hoping the judge would actually like me and win.
Yeah.
So
So now that you're pro, what does that mean? What does that look like as far as opportunities for you?
it can just mean basically any show that I want to do that is on a pro league that there's an opportunity to win money on. There's also an opportunity of more exposure because there's obviously more athletes or better athletes that actually are competing than actually amateurs. Then there's, just the whole avenue or aspect of it where there's bigger competitions where if you don't bring your A game, then obviously you won't win. But then from a sense of who might be there, who might not be there, because amateur shows tend to be not really as big. I mean, you guys went to one; it wasn't super big, but when you go to the other ones, like a different league or a different, when it comes to pros and stuff like that, they are bringing their A game. There is different levels to it. There is, different, just escape to. It's hard to really explain where you have an amateur, you have a pro, just like NBA
Yeah.
or NFL. It's like you have your college where you see the college people or you see the prospects that might go to the NFL or in the NBA, where you see a difference.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense. Well, bro, I'm happy for you, excited. Y'all celebrate this because it's been a long journey. So make sure. I know since you're big on sweets and we talked about it, but let the viewers know what was your first sweet that you had
Oh,
after your competition.
my first. Well, I always get a cookie cake. That's always a must. It's always a cookie cake and some ice cream. So
Okay.
cookie cake and ice cream, and then it's always we always go to Blaze Pizza. So you guys have a Blaze Pizza, then but basically like a build your own type pizza where you can have any toppings you want on it, and it's just fairly cheap too, so it's not really expensive at all.
Was it everything you imagined when you took your first bite?
It was different. it
I
was.
bet. I bet. Man, so man, like I said, pumped up about that. So with our topic, because we kind of wanted to talk on, the benefits of feedback. And so even with your process with bodybuilding and competing, I know in that process you got feedback several times. And so how was that experience? How do you think receiving feedback is beneficial for you, whether you're in competitions like you, or it's business related, or even work related? How do you feel, or anything related where you're receiving feedback?
Yeah.
How do you feel it is with getting feedback? Do you feel like it's beneficial?
Yeah, I think it's very beneficial, but to a certain extent. And I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe you can elaborate on how you feel about it afterwards. Feedback is always good. It's never a negative to feedback. It's always a negative how the person takes the feedback.
Hmm.
And I'm not great at it. I don't really care to have feedback like that. I know the aspect and concept of it because it only going to make me better.
Hmm.
And is it a tough pill to swallow? Yes, it is. Because it's like when you receive feedback from someone or anything about either how you can improve, how what you're like here, what you're like there, and it's humbling in a sense because okay, this is their perspective. This is their perspective, so you can take it either with grain of salt, you can take it full. But then at the same time, it's like ego wise, and that's something I still, work on, struggle with. And I mean it in this sense of how much time you spend on it and how much you work on yourself to get better at it. But then when you still hear you're not perfect at it,
Hmm.
it's like a blow because it's like I still have those struggles, but it's a blessing at the same time because you still have work to do and it shows that you still need work to do. But then it's like at the same time, it's like you're looking at yourself like, man, I feel like I've been working on, trying to improve this for so long. And like, why am I still struggling? Okay, what avenues can I take to improve this part of me? What avenues can I take to improve this part of me? And the best thing you can do is know who you are. I would say that the best thing you can do is know who you are. Because if you don't know who you are and how you can change it yourself, then hearing feedback means nothing. Because, and I mean, from that aspect where feedback won't mean anything is because if you're not willing to be open with yourself and knowing that you need to improve, then you're not going to improve anyways. So it's no point of even having feedback because if you can't take feedback for one and you don't want to be either open minded to improving yourself, then like I said, feedback's really not going to mean anything.
Yeah. I agree with that. I recently have a story where one of the players I trained, we had started film sessions. I don't know if I told you this before, but yeah, we had started film sessions, and just to kind of see, because she had a late start with basketball, and so didn't get dealt the best cards, put it like that, with the teams that she had been on and etc. So it was a lot of compressing time. And one of those things that we had to work on and she had to grow in was her basketball IQ. And so film is going to expose a lot. It's going to show you exactly the truth of what you're doing, right? And so like her mom, she would, when I would say things like defensively, I'm like, she's not in correct position, or I'll mention things because we've had talks and stuff like that. Her mom didn't play a lick of basketball, didn't play a sport. So she's thinking, well, she's in front of her man. Yeah, but with basketball, there's certain positions. Like a coach will be able to know exactly off gate, do you know how to play defense or not? Yeah, you may know how to guard the ball, but after the ball moves, do you know where to go? Do you know positioning? Do you know your spots and stuff like that? So long story short, we started film. In our first film session, I um I told her, and before I get into that, film is also to look at your opponent as well. Just to
Mhm.
throw that out there for others. But anyway, so I told her at the beginning of our first film session, I was like, before we even start, I said, this is what I need from you. I was like, I need you to not listen from a defensive or offended ear, within a defensive or an offended ear. And I was like, because if you do, it won't work. The growth won't work. The correction won't work. I was like, you're going to receive a lot of correction. Yes, I'm going to praise you and celebrate the things that you're doing well. And I'm gonna point those things out, but it's gonna be more correction than anything. But I need you to understand I'm not attacking you. I'm just trying to correct you and show you this needs to be fixed. This needs to be fixed because if you're so focused, like what you said, if you're not open for the feedback and you're thinking about being attacked, you're shutting the feedback and the correction off anyway. So you're not even hearing it. And then what ends up happening, the fixes aren't taking place. So now you're prolonging something that needs to be corrected when it could have just got corrected right there.
Mhm.
But because of the ear that we're listening into it in, it can cause us to not receive the feedback, right? And so I kind of laid that, and I laid that standard out. I set the tone, and for her to wrap her mind around and understand what the process was going to entail, so that way she won't get attacked. Because I know my personality. I know sometimes I can be, my tone, I'm very strong. I'm very passionate, bold, and stuff like that. And when I may say something, I don't, I want you to be great. So I'm saying this because I see this needs to be fixed or whatever. And so yeah, I think feedback is good, but like you said, you have to be open. You have to understand that we need it. And I think what helped me was growing up, my stepdad, he was a guy that um he's gonna tell you more of what you're not doing right than what you're doing right. And I think that set me up for feedback. Yeah, it kind of made me more critical of self, which I'm healing through all that. But the benefit of it was I was not afraid to receive feedback. Now, does that mean every single time that I wanted to hear it in that moment? Because like you said, if you've been working on something and you've been mindful of it yourself, and you're like, okay, I'm intentional with trying to fix this, and then somebody come along, well, it's still not good enough. You're like, well,
Yeah.
dang, do you know where I started? You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to what you're saying. You got to know yourself because they don't know your journey fully. Like they're not walking with you every single day. So you got to know yourself to just receive what you need to receive, fix and make the correct adjustments and tweaks or whatever, and move forward. And it's not even saying that the tweaks and adjustments are going to be perfect. Just sometimes, a lot of times, all you need is a little tweak. That's it. It just need to get a little shifted, a little better, and that little will make a big difference. Um, but yeah, I think feedback is definitely beneficial. But do you think that it's important of how you set the feedback up? Do you think that's important? How you give feedback?
Yeah, and yes and no.
Okay.
And yes, because and I say yes because it depends on the person.
Hmm.
So knowing the person, that's one. And how you deliver to that person is another thing. So for me, if me and you are just talking, like I'm pretty sure I know how I can give you feedback, and I'm pretty sure you know how you can give me feedback. Because it's like, in a sense, we're both strong people. So it's kind of like, well, I think you can do this, or I think you can do this. Okay, it's not it. That's no different for me taking any feedback unless you gave it from a aspect of, well, you ain't doing that right, so you need to just do this. That's you see that tone, right? That's a whole different demeanor.
Yeah, yeah.
So that would be taken more in a sense of anger or like, you know, the wrong way rather than saying, well, I think you probably could do this. I don't know if you want to try it or not. But
Mhm.
I think that see how the demeanor changes and how you
Yeah.
can take that aspect from that point. Um, I would think from a no perspective is feedback is going to be feedback. And I think regardless how you give it, the person still has to be open minded. So from that no perspective, I think it's like you can't really tweak giving feedback.
Mm.
You can know who the person is, but if they're not open minded, that's why I say you can't really tweak it from a no perspective. Because if you want to get feedback and the person not open minded, they're gonna take it the wrong way regardless. And to kind of go along with what you said earlier, is like I personally, in my opinion, I don't think mom needs to be in there.
You don't think what?
I don't think the mom needs to be in there, just the player. Um, because, and I say that from a player aspect because when I was playing, I was a learner. It's like I
Mhm,
wanted to learn how I could be good, and the feedback had to come with it. And so it took hard knocks. It took, being yelled at sometimes. It took like, but I knew my work ethic. And so if the player has a good work ethic, but the mom doesn't see her in practice every single day, she
mhm.
won't understand the feedback
Yeah,
because you can practice hard, you can play hard, you can work hard, but if you're doing everything the wrong way, then your practice and your hard work doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't translate to the game and it doesn't translate to the next level. So I can go shoot, 100 shots and make 100, but if it's not game speed, those 100 shots to mean nothing.
right.
I can defend, a player in a drill, go hard at it, but then it translates to nothing in the game if you have another defender who's setting a screen on you. How do you get over the screen? How do you get under the screen? How do you pin the screen? How do you just all the aspects that go into it that you have to think about. So it's like how you said earlier. It's like it's much more than just receiving the feedback. It's more so understanding the feedback, but applying that IQ to the game.
Yeah,
And that's one of the reasons why I said, if, in my opinion, I don't, like I said earlier, and if whoever's your player watching this, I don't think your mom needs to be in there
yeah,
because I've had coaches in the past where their parent and say if Ari, my daughter, starts to play, it's like it'll be easier for me to understand if she's not playing or why she's not playing. Or if she's playing sports or if she's being a starter in the sport or if she's not being a starter. Okay, what the best thing you can do to a coach is ask them like, how can my daughter or son improve? That's the best question you can ask. Because if they're not getting game time, why? Don't yell at the coach. It's like put my son in. Well, if he sucks or if she sucks, then it's no point because it's like you're just hurting the team.
yeah,
So and then it's like it could be either a matchup aspect too. It's like just because you're not getting in the game doesn't mean you're bad. It's just an aspect of matchups. If you have a tall team and then you see you can in the area you can help, okay, then sure. But if you're against a tall team and the coach sees fit where you might be able to help a certain aspect, so you might just come in for a couple minutes for defense. Yes, that's this pill you got to swallow, but then do your effort to give it in defense because if you don't, then you're definitely not getting the game.
okay.
So it's just the feedback just it comes with it, but like I said, the person has to be open minded to the feedback. And so, like I said, from the parent aspect, it's I can say it because I understand how basketball worked and just sports in general. It's like you can't just say this person is doing this or my child is doing this, but sure, but it's not right. And as a parent, we have to just swallow the pill because it's like if you never played, like you said, if you've never played sports in a lick of her life or whatever, then it's like you won't understand the concept of it. It's not a bad thing,
Right.
but it's not a bad thing at all. It's like, but the concept of how fast the game really is when you're out there is completely different than what you're watching on the sideline. Because when
Yeah.
you're out there, you have to really move. You have to really pivot quick. You have to really, you know, all these things correlate to not just looking at a basketball game. It's like it might look slow to you on the outside, but when you're actually in the game, it's like you run down twice, you're tired.
Mhm.
And like it's just a whole different aspect of it.
Yeah. That's what so yeah, I had a conversation. So yeah, her mom isn't in our film sessions. I think one, she trusts me. She understands that my heart and that I care. Um, and she sees the progress. And I made that statement where her mom heard too, because I think at certain conversations where on text or in person that we had that I could feel like, okay, you're getting a little defensive, but that's because that's your baby. That's your,
Yeah.
and you're saying that, well, I think my baby is wonderful and great, and she is, right? But that doesn't mean that she's doing everything with basketball correctly. And so when I make a correction or give feedback, that doesn't mean that, uh that is not fixable or anything, but that doesn't mean that I'm trying to attack her saying, "Oh my gosh, look at you." No, let's fix this real quick. So that way
Yeah.
we won't continue to do that same thing over and over. So
And that's
yeah.
just coming from you, and sorry to cut you off, but
No, you're good.
that's just coming from her knowing who you are too. It's like that relationship too can be either understandable or not understandable, because if she knows you like that, she knows your heart, then it's like you're not trying to do right. I mean, you're not trying to do wrong by her. So it's like you're going to set her up in a good aspect of things where she can succeed. So it's
Yeah.
not like, hey, I'm telling you this because I want you to fail. No, I'm telling you this because I think you could be a whole different level of a player. And if you do these certain things where I've seen it translate to the next level, then your next level process will be a whole lot easier than just sticking on this same process. And that's what a lot of people don't understand too. Cause like from middle school to high school to high school to college, from college to whatever league or pro league or like that, it's cliche to say, but people who've actually played either a sport or just anything in general, the difference is significant. And I hate saying it like that, but it's for those who don't understand sports or watching that might not have played sports. It's like you might hear it all the time, but you might not think nothing of it. But when you go from middle school to high school, it's totally different. When you go from high school to college, it's totally different. Even just going from a JUCO to a D1, D2, D3, it's completely different because now you're I would say high school, yes, but now when you go to college, certain things, depending on the school, now you're dealing with not just basketball stuff. Now you're dealing with crowds.
Mm.
Like you run out, people are calling you names, people are calling you by not even, certain aspects of things to calling you out your name. It's like you're dealing with, sidelines where people are right next to you and chatting in your ear while you're trying to make a play. Like you have to, it's so much scenarios that you gotta actually play with to where the physicality could be even different. Like play AAU ball, there's less rules, but there's still rules. But at the same time, the physicality can be a whole lot stricter, or not physicality, whole lot less than actually playing a college, or high school, basketball like team.
Hmm.
So the rules could be different in AAU compared to that. So it's like um, just the level of competitiveness from each level you go to is, especially for like if you go to a higher level school. So I don't know if you're probably a person trying to go to a higher level school, but you got to think about that stuff too, because you go to a D1 school. I mean, I'm talking about you're dealing with fans who's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Don't
you
care.
got, yeah, they don't care, and it's like no one's going to tell them to stop either. So it's like
Yeah.
how you going to adapt to that? So you have to tone out the noise. So if you can't adapt to just simple things, so where you're playing in an open gym to where really no fans are around compared to 10,000 fans around you, then you might as well, work on something else because you're not going to adapt easy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's definitely not going to be easy. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be able to receive feedback on this journey. It just is what it is. If you're trying to be great at whatever you do or be successful in whatever you do, it comes with it. It's a part of the process. All right.
And
Yeah,
that's
man.
technically feedback. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No,
Let
go
me,
ahead, bro.
I was going to say, just add one more thing too. It's like, and that's technically feedback. And that's feedback you won't like.
Yeah.
Because think about somebody like from a coach's aspect, you're going to take feedback from crowds. From a player's aspect, you're going to take feedback from crowds. He's like, you suck. Okay, that's feedback you don't like, but you're going to hear it. How do
Hmm.
you respond to it? He's like, do you want to, you know, bow down to someone saying you suck, or are you going to go out there and show them you don't suck?
Exactly. Yeah, man. What last thoughts that you will leave uh the viewers that's listening and watching?
I would just say, I mean, when it comes to feedback, and like I said, I'm speaking to myself as well, is you have to just take it with a grain of salt. Take what's good, take what's bad, and just be patient with yourself in taking the feedback. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is just like nothing's personal, nothing's really just, you know, bad about it. Feedback is good. It just the personality of yourself is the person who's taking the feedback and how good can you take it. It's like how good can you actually take it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing, really. Like I said, I'm speaking to myself as well. Is just being patient with yourself, actually being open minded, and then just taking what's good, taking what's bad, and then just work on whatever it is that the person gave you feedback, and then write it down if you have to, and then say, okay, am I really struggling? And be honest with yourself. I would say that's the main thing. Be honest with yourself. So if you're open to it, and then you're being honest with yourself, you actually can improve.
Yes, I think that is key. Yes, man. And the only thing I would say, just remain a student. It that remaining a student pretty much encompasses everything James just said. Of when you're in student mode, if I'm in student mode, I'm looking to learn, I'm looking to grow. So with that, feedback is needed because if I hear everything that, oh, you're doing great all the time, that doesn't really help you make growth leaps or growth steps and strides. And so just remain a student out there on this journey. Uh, well, y'all, this is episode 22. Now, listen, I will say this. In episode 23, or we've already pre-recorded, but listen, check this out. I gotta tell y'all this because y'all may hear us talk about James' competition and it haven't happened yet. And now you hear it in episode 22, now he's in pro. Oh, listen, we it's some things that went on, so we had to reshoot episode 22. But yeah, check out both episodes. I think it's super dope to hear how he was prepping and he was getting ready for the competition. Then he became a pro after the competition. So again, bro, congratulations on that. Bask in that. And I'm super excited for what's in store for the future for you and your family. So let's get it. We will be back with another episode soon. Like I said, hit that share like button. And like I said in the beginning, if there's anything that resonated with you, definitely share it with a friend, family member that you feel that it may be beneficial to and it can impact their life. All right, we out of here. Deuces.